So before we start, let's see. Mike and Gail, are you with us? Mary Ann, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let me try Mike and Gail again. Okay.
We are back.
We're here,
Okay.
Jeff. Sorry about that.
That's not a problem. So now this is interesting that the last module is called Making a Difference. And if you look at the bottom of page 31, it says, congratulations, graduates. But not all of us have taken all three parts. Mary Ann, have you taken part one?
No, I missed out on that.
Okay. So I'm going to congratulate you ahead of time because you are certainly going to take part one. You just haven't taken it yet. Is there anyone else who has not taken all three parts?
Jeff, I missed about 20 minutes one night, but I did review the materials. I think I let you know that.
Yes. And John?
Yeah, I missed part one. I mean, I missed the first part of the three-part, and then I also missed the first part yesterday of part three.
Got it. So you'll all have a chance to catch up on parts you missed, but that means that Mark and Deb and Mike and Gail and Leo, you all have taken all three parts?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so if your internet goes down in the next half hour, you will not graduate. So let's pray for no lightning strikes or little glitches, because we need to make through this. But this module is really intended to reflect both for yourself and for us. What did you like? What didn't you like? What did you learn? What are the aha moments that you're going to take back with you? We do get your feedback every time we do a session, and you're going to get that survey. But this is really more of a chance to kind of think about maybe some of the key takeaways that you had through RLI. And again, for those of you who didn't go through all of it, you went through enough of it, there's probably still some takeaways that will ultimately help you and the club. So when we start this, we'll bring up our first page. And again, because it's part three, it starts with, as I further my Rotary journey, I will help assess my own experience and growth through RLI and help improve the path for others to follow. So I think that's really kind of an ultimate goal for the Rotary Leadership Institute. And this, kind of puts it all together into one nice umbrella. How can I, as an RLI participant, contribute to improving the experience for others? We'll talk about that. How can I use the ideas raised at RLI to improve my club, other groups in my civic, social, or business life? And from your experience, analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the program and make some specific suggestions. This last one, we're going to probably get more through the survey that we're going to send out to you. So we're not going to focus as much on strengths and weaknesses of the program. We'll see if we have time. We really want to focus on what can you take away. And let me just start by saying that with any training or anything like this, the first goal is to have you learn and grow. The second goal is to then have you take all that learning and growth and apply it. Because if it doesn't get applied, then we're really not maximizing the value of this to you. The clubs that contribute the $35 per session, when we do it, through our normal mechanism, they're doing it because they see the value back to the club. So it's great for people to learn things, but ultimately it's what can you take back to the club. So I wanted to start with this first question. Let me bring up the notepad. If you look at your third page, the insert MD1. It has all of the classes in RLI, so it may have been a while since you took part one. If you did take part one, the right-hand column is the new curriculum. It changed this year, slightly different. Some of you may have actually taken part one before 2015, but this will kind of refresh your memory as to what modules we covered in part one and part two, and then, of course, this week with part three. So I guess what I'd like from a few of you, and I may call on a few of you as well, is what stands out as perhaps the most memorable or impactful session that you've had with the Rio Grande Academy, and why?
Hi, Jeff. If I can go first. Actually, there were two that I have thought about quite a bit since the night they were held. One was the idea of sustaining the strategic planning process, or maintaining or sustaining. The other one was, we don't really ever, and we just did one about 3 months ago, is we never really survey and ask our members what's going on and what they're thinking about. I found our survey results were so insightful. So those were the two things I got out of it, and the survey we borrowed from these training materials.
Okay, I think, Bill, the first one was kind of soft, but I think you said the strategic planning and analysis.
Well, strategic planning and sustaining the process from year to year. You're not going to do strategic plan every year.
Okay, thank you. Another volunteer, please. I'm going to call on someone if it's okay, because we haven't heard much from you. Mary Ann, do you have, and I know you didn't take part one, but from part two or part three, was there anything that was really insightful for you, any of these modules in particular?
Well, I think I've taken away a lot from all of the modules for me, because, you know, I'm new to all of this, and it's in the few months that I've been in Rotary, I've already picked up on a lot that my club is not doing, and I think it's time to revamp and, you know, get some new, because my club is an old club. I'm sorry, we're all probably over 50, so
That's
we
not
need
old.
some young.
I'm over 50.
Well,
I'm old.
well, you know, we could be closer to 60, but I'm kind of giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. But from what I see, you know, we need some new, younger people, new blood, and we need to get off of high center and start doing a lot of things that I've seen in here that we're not doing. Basically, we're a club going to lunch. And so I've jotted down a lot of notes and things that you know, when I come in July, you know, I've already got a lot of notes on things that I want to try. Now, whether or not I'll get pushback from everybody because they want to go to lunch, we'll find out. I don't know. It's just going to be trial and error. I also learned one thing that was insightful to me when we were talking about the president can't do, you don't do too much.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what's been happening with me as the new member in there, in that, and now that I'm president-elect, the president is, unfortunately, seems to be gone a lot. So I get to step up and run the meetings, and you know, I'm kind of the new one that gets to start some projects that were planned, but you know, nobody had ever really gotten around to doing. So I see a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and yet I'm going to have to step back and not do it, and make committees and have committees do it. So that, you know, it's been an eye opener for me, and it's kind of like an, oh my God, what did I get myself into type of thing. But, that's usually the way it is with anything new that you go into. And when fear of the unknown, I guess.
So there's a couple of assistant governors and an incoming lieutenant governor who happen to be on this video conference. First of all, I appreciate your candor. And I remember when I was a fairly new Rotarian, because as Bruce mentioned, I went through this when I was very new, and it was a little bit overwhelming too. One thing that you may consider, if it hasn't crossed your mind, is whoever your assistant governor is going to be, if you have a chance to interact with that person, the two of you and maybe some of your board members, you may decide, well, we can't do everything. I mean, you may have left with maybe 10 ideas, but maybe you focus on, let's say, 2 or 3 that you think will likely be successful, that can kind of get the train rolling. Because if you try to do, like you said, you can't do too much. So out of everything that RGA has helped kind of give you some insight over, there may be a couple of things that, let's say, you start with and see how they go, as you pointed out. And maybe between you and your assistant governor and your board members, you can kind of figure out, well, what are the 2 or 3 things that we ought to implement this year that we haven't been doing or we haven't been doing successfully, and then pick up a few other things maybe the next year or 2 after that.
Jeff, one of the things that I take away from all this is, or 2 of the things, the strategic planning and the building a stronger club. And this is for Marianne. Keep in mind, Marianne, because you're trying to build basically re-engage a club that has gone into the lunch mode. And we kind of are faced with the same thing last year. So our president, Deborah, who is going to be an assistant governor, she actually, had to do a lot of strategic planning, and she did a really good job of it and communicated it very well to the rest of the leadership team. And so, and the one thing that you really have to keep in mind, and Deborah has always kept this in sight, you're not going to accomplish everything this year in your presidency.
Right.
So build a team below you that will carry your vision and your strategic plan on to the next year and the next year and the next year. Yep. And that is just total key. And like I say, the part that I take away is the building a stronger club. That's a really good session. I mean, it's a lot of good things that we see to re-engage our membership and get them more involved. And I took a lot away from that one right there.
Great, thank you. Any other volunteers on memorable or impactful sessions?
Well, I have a lot, but I think I can speak on behalf of everyone that has gone through this. This is amazing. So Jeff, thank you.
Yes.
For your time, and the other facilitators, thank you for your time, because if it was not for this, I don't think I would have ever gone through this training. And the one that I went back through my booklet that I made, ethics in vocational service. I remember that from the very first session and didn't know a lot about any of that. And this really gave us the overview of the object of Rotary, the 4-way test, the 5 avenues of service, code of conduct. I'm sure everyone can remember it now that I'm ringing that bell. But this was something that hit me, and I really wanted to bring this back to my club and do that at one of our quarterly meetings that I'll conduct.
Yeah.
But that was the one. I mean, there's so many, but there's so many things that I think we learned that we didn't know about Rotary before. And some of you may have been in Rotary for 10 years and didn't know half of these things. And I'm very fortunate that I've only been in here going on, 5 years, and I'm still learning, but at least I'm learning that in the very beginning.
Yeah. I remember vividly when I went through RGA and we got to this, I pointed out the vocational service modules too, because it's the one avenue of service that doesn't seem to get as much attention. We don't think about it as often. We think about the service projects, and we think about the international work, and we think about the social activities, but the vocational service sometimes is under the radar. So for me, it was a real eye-opener to think about that as a significant part of what the Rotary experience should be. So that was my feeling as well. Any other thoughts on memorable or impactful sessions? Okay. Let's see how we're doing on time. All right. There's one more question I would like for us to address, and then we've got a little exercise at the end. So if you look at question 3, so this is part of the you learn and you grow, and then how can you take that knowledge and use it to improve the club? So what are some things that you have learned that your club or Rotary International in general is facing that your experience through Rio Grande Academy can help?
This is Gail. One of the things that really impacted me was the first half of session 3, Monday night, Jeff, when we were talking about engaging members to retain them because there's such a turnover of new members. And we talked about there was this one scenario where the club had the mature members who had their cliques over here and
Right.
the new members. And from that, I walked away with the idea of doing a mentoring program so that we could engage some of these cliques and also make the newer members feel welcomed and not, shunned to the other tables. So that's one of the takeaways that I got from that one.
Excellent. Excellent. What else?
Jeff, I would agree. Engagement and diversity are the two things that I kept hearing over and over and over again. And, getting our younger members involved in board activities or community projects much sooner than just sitting around and waiting for to be asked. That's what I got from a lot of this stuff.
And keep in mind, what's great about having president-elects go through this is that you may be thinking about these things anyway, and maybe some of the sessions that we've gone through may help galvanize or take thoughts that you had and maybe put some specificity behind it. So what else did you get from going through this experience that you can bring back to help your clubs?
Jeff, it's been interesting for me to go through this because I'm probably the 3rd or 4th person from our small club to go through RGA. And yet none of this has been implemented in our club at all. And so I think, as you said before, if we just use it as knowledge only without it affecting what we do, then it doesn't do what it's designed to do.
Right.
And I've been a member of different clubs where they were functioning well. They had all the chairs in place back when we had service chairs and all that stuff years ago. And our club, I've noticed now that our club has gradually just allowed this stuff to slip away. And so they're becoming just a breakfast club.
Well, so this is Gail again in Clovis. Something else that we were discussing earlier, we go to these classes, and I love them, and I walk away with such enthusiasm and excitement and all this information, and oh, I can't wait to do this. And then I walk away and get back into my life of busyness that makes it very difficult to follow through to implement.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, one of the mottos that I live by, and even though I don't know if I ever mentioned it in a Rotary meeting, I think Bruce would attest that this fits me, and it's really helped me with Rio Grande Academy is slow and steady wins the race.
Sure.
And, a number of you brought up the notion, we all can't, presidents can't do too much. And, we leave with all these light bulbs going off and we try to do too much and we flame out. And the idea of kind of taking a slow and steady approach, and we're going to get to a little action plan here in a few minutes, but take something that you can bring back to the club and plant the seeds and start to nurture and cultivate, especially if it's a club that is in a certain comfort zone or a certain mindset, that it's going to be hard to make quick, rapid change. But again, for those of you who are president-elects, this is the perfect time to really kind of get that sense of what do you think you can get through, what's going to be your roadblocks. If you have a long-term view, what are going to be those first key steps that will get you moving or get the club moving in a better direction, so to speak? So a lot of this really comes down to, if there was a lot to consider, that's great, but now it's time to focus, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But before we do that, any other thoughts about what you can take back to the clubs to help the club improve? Because I want to get to the action plan, but I don't want to miss anything if there's another idea here.
Well, I think that this gives us an avenue for our own in-club leadership training, because there's a lot of areas of weakness that we have, but we also have to focus on our areas of strength. But, we don't have a lot of training just because we just don't. So this really guides us on what we need to train our membership on, what benefits them, because I can't imagine I would love for my members to go through this, but I feel that they're going to be more beneficial. It's going to be more beneficial for them to go through public relations training than I can really do that. Or if it's, because I guarantee you they're not going to show up on a Saturday afternoon just gung-ho to, listen to me talk for 6 hours. But it will give me something to grasp, and not just me, but also Mark, and then the person coming in after Mark, because he's actually in education himself. So I know he'll see the value in all of this once he gets in that role. But I can, the one thing Mark and I have reiterated the past 2 days is that we've absolutely found it was so necessary for us to work together instead of working in opposite directions or working against each other, and have the same goal in mind. We have to have that same goal, and it's not a goal within a year, but it's a goal within like 5 years. It's Mark and I are married together at the hip. I mean, I'm a newlywed, but Mark and I are literally.
She actually on Sunday got married and said, "Here's my husband, and here's my Rotary husband."
We work together so closely. It is so important.
Yeah.
So my thing is you say we don't have a mentoring program, but I feel like it was my job to mentor Mark. And it's Mark's job to mentor Dr. Thurman, and it's Dr. Thurman's job to mentor the next person.
Yep.
And it's John's job to mentor me. So
Excellent.
that's so many things, but
Okay, well, I appreciate the insight, and as I said, you're going to get a survey where we're going to get feedback on how we can improve the Rio Grande Academy, because that's important for us. One real quick observation, and then we'll do this personal action plan. And Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first couple of years that we were doing Rio Grande Academy in the district, the people that attended were primarily people like president-elects, secretaries, committee chairs, people that were either in leadership positions or were about to be in leadership positions. And then
That's true, but we also had a fairly large number of brand new Rotarians as well.
Well, that's what I was going to mention. So when the new members started coming, initially for myself, I was a little nervous, because if I'm a new Rotarian and there's people that are very experienced, is there going to be the same dynamic of discussion, and are the new members going to feel like they're over their heads? And the feedback we got was that the new members loved it. And I think it actually adds to the dynamic of Rio Grande Academy to have diversity in Rotary experience, how many years, different clubs, large, small. That's why this works well when we have people from different clubs interacting and sharing, because we don't all do everything the same. So we've learned, even though it's the Leadership Institute, that it's also great for new members. It really is. So, okay, in the last 7 or 8 minutes, if you look at insert MD2, this is your personal action plan. This is for you as a participant in the Rio Grande Academy. Just want you to think about one thing that you're going to do differently as a result of the training you've gone through. And for those of you who did not graduate and you haven't taken all the sessions, we still want you to do this, even though there's still more learning for you. But just think about a goal that you think you can achieve. We talked about SMART goals in the strategic planning session. So think about what it would be, something specific, measurable, etc. A few action steps. And I do want you to sign it and date it, so this becomes like an oath to yourself. You're going to take something back with you, and then in about 3 or 4 minutes, we'll just hear from a few of you, and then we will adjourn. Okay, we'll take another minute. Okay. Who would like to, and you don't have to read everything that you came up with, but who would like to volunteer what your goal is and how you're going to accomplish it? Go ahead. Bill, you're on mute. Can't hear you.
I wrote down was to refocus our membership.
Refocus the membership. So how are you going to accomplish that?
Well, engagement, surveying, change committee memberships, increase board membership to the younger people. We need to refocus and get back to where Rotary is meant to be, not where Rotary has evolved here in Carlsbad.
Excellent. Thank you. Who else would like to volunteer?
Jeff, it's Mike and Clovis.
Okay.
I wrote down here, establish committees. And when I say that, you may remember Clovis Rotary Club hasn't functioned with committees. We have chair people.
Right.
Try to do everything.
Yep.
But when I say establish committees, I think that that's key in this idea of organized effort. I believe we need to establish committees, but the rest of what I've written down here is whose chairs know what good looks like. We will have a vision that each of the board members and chair people can communicate and break that down into an elevator speech. And when we talk about club communication, you got to say something. You got to tell a group something at least 7 times before they hear it or understand it. So I think that as a starting place, that elevator speech arrived at from our vision needs to be repeated in club communication over and over.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
This is Marianne. I've come up with, like I said, several things, but a couple of the major things that I want to do is to challenge each one of our Rotary members to bring in one new member. The next thing is to have a new and different project rather than the same old that they do every year. And the project that I'm envisioning right now is to pull our Rotary Club together and try to organize something with our farmers market this summer, and do that pulling in and partnering with the city's initiative and our county hospital because one of the two of the big problems in our area here is adult and child obesity, and also nutrition. Basically, I guess would touch on the obesity issue plus diabetes. So I would like I can envision our club partnering with the hospital and farmers market and city and county governments to expand the produce and so forth that we do have at our little farmers markets. Then I think one of the aha moments that I had was in conjunction with the elevator speech thing, and an experience that I had the other day too when someone asked me, well, what does Rotary do? And so I'm thinking that I would like to have kind of a business card printed with an elevator speech on it that we could just hand out to a person that they could stick in their pocket versus, having a pamphlet that they carry around or throw up on the dash or whatever. They could actually have a card that's small and not intrusive and so forth, just to recruit.
Excellent. Thank you very much. One other volunteer? Anyone else?
Well, if nobody else will step forward, I'll just go ahead and mention mine. And mine is to create a mentoring program. And the purpose of that is to get the new members engaged while allowing our more mature members, if you will, to engage with the new members so that they're both sharing that commonality of Rotary, help engage the new people while re-engaging our existing members.
Great. Thank you, Gail. Before I close the session, Bruce, did you have any kind of final input or advice?
I kept waiting for that. It looked like you were going to say something else. So I kept waiting. Well, I did a second ago. I was thinking about something. Now I've lost it, but that's okay. I think that I'm hearing a lot of good things on these action plans. You will find it not so easy when you go back to your clubs, even if you're in a leadership position. It's not so easy to enact these things. You really need to have some support with a few key people in the club before you take some of these ideas to your club. Get with the more influential members and see if you can get them won over on what you want to do, and that will help a great deal. Don't just go back and say, this is what we're going to do and I think it's going to be really great. Get some support from some of the more influential members of your club. The other thing that I wanted to tell you was I'm really pleased. Well, first off, I need to thank Jeff. He early on saw the value when I was the coordinator for RLI. I kind of balked a little bit at what we're doing over online. And it wasn't that I didn't think that we couldn't do it. It was I just wondered if it would be as valuable to the members that attended as attending a live session. And now that we've done it using Zoom, I see that we can do almost everything online to make this available to you Rotarians who are out. You're in the different areas around the District 5520 where it's likely we wouldn't be able to do a live training with you guys, or where we have tried. In Roswell, we actually had a training going on in Roswell for about 2 years, but eventually it just dried up. We just couldn't get enough support for it. But this, I think, is a good answer, and so I really do appreciate that. And I'm very happy to see so many president-elects here. How many of you are going to be at PETS?
Yes.
Okay.
I will be.
Okay.
I'll be.
Yep. Well, you president-elects, well, I'll be there too. And although I won't be for the whole thing, but on Saturday for sure, I'm going to hunt you guys down. And what I'm going to ask you is, how much did PETS help you prepare for ROI? How much did the Rio Grande Academy and the ROI help you prepare for what happens at PETS? Because everybody keeps talking about drinking from the fire hose. There's going to be a lot of information there, but our feeling is that what you have learned here over these sessions is going to be a tremendous asset to you, because you're going to have a leg up on all the president-elects who have not been through this course and don't have the experience to understand anything about the Rotary Foundation or how the district works. But I want to get some testimonials from you guys. So glad you enjoyed your experience with us, because this being a pilot, that's the first time, obviously, we've done this. So I think it's turning out really well.
Thank you, Bruce. I just have one comment and then we will close. Other than just thanking you, and you're going to get the survey, and I'll also send out the notes files that we took today. This book, if you're keeping your notes, please consider using it as a reference. There's things that are in here that after a year or so I kind of forgot about. But because I've got the book, I can always go back and refresh. Please consider using this as a reference guide as you move forward in your own Rotary journey. We sincerely appreciate you being involved with this pilot. We've learned a lot. We will make improvements based on your feedback. And for those of you who are president-elects and will make it to PETS, we will see you there. For those of you who are assistant governors, we will see you in Las Cruces in a couple of days. And with that, thank you all very much and have a great evening.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff. Good job.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.